Hello, everybody. Let me make sure that you can actually see me. There we go. Lydia neglected to mention that I had a welcome will be starting shortly sign across my face. Has it gone now?
No.
It's still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's that 20-second delay. Right? Welcome, everybody. I hope you all had a great day. It was beautiful here in Ontario. We had another beautiful riding day. I snuck out 6 hours on the motorcycle. So I still have my windy cheeks and my helmet head, and it's all good. It was a great day. Spent all day on the motorcycle yesterday as well. So I think those days are almost gone for this year, but yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed the weather, and I hope everybody's ready to draw. Like I said last week, I do want to explain that this is meant, tonight anyways, is meant for brand new people who don't have much, if any, Freemotion experience, okay? There'll be lots of stuff for those of you who have more experience, things you may have not have thought of, or, you know, that sort of thing. But what we're going to doodle with tonight is right at the beginning. I wanted to start right at the very, very beginning so that those who have never tried it or are brand new have some stepping stones into their Freemotion journey. Okay? So I've got a couple of things already drawn out on the board. I am working on a really nice handout for everybody. I've decided that the next 3 Monday nights we are going to be drawing, and each Monday night will build on the Monday night before, okay? And after the 3 weeks, I'll have a nice handout for you, for those of you who are interested in it. It'll have lots of good information in there, and but I don't want to give you what I have now because I want it to grow organically. And we'll have next week, and then we'll have the week after, and then it'll be a nice little package that goes with these 3 weeks. Okay, so I want to start by talking about a couple of things. I do have my little piece of paper here so I don't forget, because you know me with my ADD. If I see something out of the corner of my eye, I'm going to forget what I was talking about. So when it comes to Freemotion quilting, obviously we don't have the structure and the guidance from a pantograph. So we're not following a little red light. It's all coming out of our head and our hands, and we're drawing our own and creating our own designs. So there are some things that you need to think about besides creating a design, a specific design. There are some things you need to think about that you don't even have to have cross your mind when you're using a pantograph. The first thing is consistency. With Freemotion quilting, or I tend to call it freehand, with freehand quilting, when you're doing, in this case, edge to edge, all right? So at first we're going to be talking edge to edge. So we're talking the whole quilt top. We're not going into filler designs tonight or, you know, specific places and all that kind of thing. Edge to edge, side to side, top to bottom, you're going to dance across the whole quilt by yourself with no pantograph. So one of the hardest things, or one of the things that took me the most time when I was brand new to working from the front of the machine, was to keep my designs consistent from the top left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. Okay? What tends to happen, and what can happen especially when you're newer, is as you start your design, you've got your design nailed, you've practiced it, you've doodled it on in your sketchbooks, you got this. You start, and then as you're working down the quilt and you're getting warmed up and you're getting really comfortable, what can happen sometimes is your design will start out large-ish, and as you're working down the quilt, without you even noticing, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and tighter and more things all the way to the bottom. So when you take the quilt off and you look at the top left corner and the bottom right corner, it may be the same design, but, you know, one could start out like this and end up like this. Or vice versa. When you start out, maybe you're tense and you're tight and you're so focused on what you're trying to do that your design is really small. And then as you get warmed up and you get loose and you start to breathe again and you start blinking, because that's always good for your eyeballs, is to blink, then sometimes the design can loosen up. So you start with it smaller and sort of tight and stiff, and as you get to the bottom, then it's all open and loose and curly and whirly and all that kind of stuff. So, so keeping it consistent from the top to the bottom is one of those things you're going to have to think about. Now, what I used to do, especially when a cell phone became a thing, was if I was working on a quilt, especially if I was coming back the next day, and I do this with my custom work as well, as I'm working through the quilt, I take a couple of photos with my cell phone. If you need to, for reference, you could put a ruler down or a marker, a marking pen, a chalk pencil, I don't know, I'm looking around, a cone of thread, anything. Put it beside your design and take a photo. And then that way, as you're working down the quilt, if you feel like it's starting to change a little bit, you can look at your photo and then say you used a cone of thread. You drop that cone of thread down, 4 rows down. Does it look in scale with what you started with up at the top corner? Without having to roll it all back, right? Then you have a guide, you have a visual right on your fabric, and then you have the visual on your phone. You're like, oh, okay, well, it's getting a little tight or it's getting a little loose, and then you can sort of change it as you go. Does that make sense? You could stop me anytime if somebody has a question. Okay? Lydia's here again. I gave her some paper, and she has a gel pen because she wants to doodle too. And Jesse is in Montreal, and he's in the chat group as well, as always, because he's awesome sauce. And they're here with me again tonight. So, yeah. So, consistency is one of the things that you really want to watch. And that goes for filler designs as well. However, generally when we're working with filler designs, we're in a contained space. So it's a lot easier to keep track of what's happening with your filler designs because it's generally in a space that you can see, right? Not always, but basically. Okay. So we want to work on our consistency from top to bottom. You also need to think about the scale of your design. And this is true for pantographs as well. When you're going to quilt a quilt, if it's a baby quilt, and this is much easier when it comes to freehand quilting than it is to pantographs, because pantographs you have to actually have different sizes of pantographs, right? The beauty of freehand quilting is if I have a design that I love to do, little flowers and curly cues or whatever, if I'm doing that on a queen size quilt, I'm going to stitch it larger than if I'm quilting that same design that I have in my head on a baby quilt. Because flowers that are this big are going to look really stupid or foolish. Sorry, I shouldn't use the stupid word. They won't look right on a baby quilt. Great big flowers and curls that are this big. They're going to want to be smaller because the space is smaller, the scale of the quilt is smaller. So you want to keep an idea in your head of how big the quilt is and how big the design is that you want to stitch out, as well as density. So a design can be large and open, and it can be large and dense, right? Typically, I'm a very dense quilter anyway, so I have a really hard time keeping things open and loose. I don't really understand that concept very well. I'm heavy-handed, but I try. But you can have a design that's large and open, and you can have the same design that's small but still open and not dense, or vice versa. You can have a very small design that's really, really dense. You can also quilt it out larger and have it just as dense. You're just going to add more stuff to it, okay? That's a couple of weeks down the road, just things to keep in mind, all right? And I have, like I said, I have my little cheat sheet here so I don't forget to tell you anything. All right, so what I have here, hopefully everybody can see it. they're not rectangles. I drew these over and over and over again, and Lydia didn't understand why it was important to me that they were actually real rectangles, and in the end I gave up. So these are my very unsquare wobbly quilts. What I have here in this one, this is our quilt top, and we're going to pretend this is on the frame. These dashed lines represent the quiltable space. All right, so for those of you who are quilting and doing pantographs, it's your quiltable space that you do your row in, right? So we have on this one maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our quiltable space. When we're working freehand, we're going to work the design in the quiltable space, but I want you to try and undulate the line or the row so that you give space underneath it for the next row when you advance it to be able to come along with the design, whatever the design may be, and actually tuck it up into the row before it. We're going to call it a pass. It's a pass. You pass this way, and then you pass this way, and you pass this way. So instead of just going straight across, I want you to keep in mind that you want to keep it uneven on the bottom of that area so that when you advance the quilt and you do the next area, you can then tuck this quilting up into there. You're going to do the same thing, tuck it up into there. So very much like a pantograph does, what we want is for our freehand designs to nest, because the goal at the end of the day is to have the design nice and consistent throughout the whole quilt without being able to see a row here, a row here, a row here. Does that make sense? So what's going to happen is you may not use all of your quiltable space, and that space is basically the amount of space that you can use at one shot. It's going to depend on the machine you have. It's going to depend on the throat space you have. Everybody's is going to be different. For those of you on short arms and mid arms, you may only have this much quiltable space or this much quiltable space. A 26-inch throat or a 30-inch throat machine, you may have this much space or this much space. Everybody's going to be different. So when you're working in that area, you're not going to be taking up the entire space at once. Okay? Like I said, we want to gently undulate whatever design it is we're doing so that the next one will nest up underneath it and you won't be able to tell where the rows are. Okay? All right. The other thing I want to touch on, and we will talk about it again, when I'm quilting through a quilt doing freehand edge to edge, I always start, I don't know why, I always start in my top left-hand corner, like in this area here. Not necessarily on the very top left-hand corner of the quilt, but on the left-hand side, and I'll work my way across. When I advance my quilt and I baste my two sides first, and I go to do my next pass, I start on the right side and I will dance my way across this way. When I advance again, I smooth everything out, baste both sides. It's so incredibly important. I cannot stress that enough. You must baste both sides before you quilt in the space. Okay? Pantographs, Freemotion, custom work, it doesn't matter. You always need those sides basted before you start quilting, okay? Because the quilting starts to draw things in, and if you don't baste, your quilt will start to pull in and will get really weird on the sides, okay? But basically, I go left to right, and then right to left to right to left, all the way down. I started doing that forever and ever ago because I was noticing that if I always went from left to right, my brain started to develop a pattern, and I would start to stitch the same curl in the same spot, much like a pantograph, and then I would come around, and because I was going in the same direction and I sort of created that muscle memory, it started to look kind of like a pantograph, which is not what I wanted when you're doing free motion quilting, right? So by switching the sides that I start from, it forces your brain to think about everything the opposite way, and basically what it's going to give you is a more organic a more organic feel, and it'll give you more opportunities to change things up a little bit and add some interest. Okay? Hopefully that made sense. I feel like it was word salad. Did that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. Lydia is not a quilter. She's actually a very talented chef. Well, you are. Very talented. Food is delicious. Yeah, so if you can understand that, then I know they'll understand that. As quilters, they'll get it. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Okay, let's get rid of that. All right. It's okay, I'll do it. No, I'll do it myself. This is the thing I was waiting for last week, by the way. And it turns. Let's hope it doesn't kill me on live TV. Fall apart. There we go. Nice. And then it tightens up. Okay. All right, when you start free hand quilting, we're going to start with the whole meander thing. It's the easiest thing to do. But what I want you to understand is when you come away from meandering and you're stitching loops and hearts and flowers and feathers and curls and curly cues and all those other things, feathers, everything, doesn't matter what you're doing. Everything travels exactly the same as a meander does. All right? So I've started, where did I start? I started here. If I wanted to go straight across, this thing would just be a square. There would be no movement to it. Okay? So if I started with a meander here, and I'm going to follow this line, and I start swinging around, and I come around. It's a little bit like getting lost in the woods. And for those of us with ADD, this is how life is, right here. We don't do anything in a straight line. So if you can see underneath that, those straight red lines, it's just a meander, but it took me forever to get here because I didn't just go across. If we're going to meander and just go across, what's going to happen is it's going to end up looking like this. There's going to be no movement to it because it's just going from one point to one point, and it's basically staying in a straight line. Okay? What we need to do is go in all different directions and let it take forever to get to where we want it to go. So I'm never going, I'm gently getting myself this way, but it's taking me forever to get there. So I'm around and down and across, and then I'm up, then I'm back over there for a minute, then I come over here, then I come down, and you just continue, you know, it's sort of like just being lost. Back over here. Does everybody understand that? I want to skip past this as quickly as we can. So I think most people understand the whole meander thing, right? The main thing, like I said, is that when you understand that the meander does that, goes back on itself, comes forward, goes up, goes down, and takes forever to get to where it's going, it doesn't matter. We're going to now do some loops, and then we're going to add some hearts, and then we're going to add a tendril, then we're going to add a flower, but we're still going to travel. As we add these elements in, we're still going to travel like this, okay? lost all over the place. Eventually we'll get to the other side, but it's going to take a long time to get there because we're not going to go in a straight line. All right? I have a fancy dry erase marker thing that I bought, and it doesn't work worth jack crap. Plain old shop towel works great. So, okay. So we're going to start with some loops. And I know loops sound really boring, but you know what? They can be so super sweet on a little kid's quilt, little girl's quilt, or an adult lady's quilt, for that matter, with other things added in. They really do travel well, and they're very useful. So when we're doing loops, I want you to think clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. Each loop is going to go the opposite way than the loop before it. Does that make sense? And loops, actually, we'll do it next week maybe. Loops, when condensed and rounded and condensed and condensed and condensed, turn into bubbles or pebbles or whatever you want to call them. They will turn into a filler design when they're squashed close together and rounded right out. And they're still clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. But we'll do them next week. All right, so follow along. We're going to start anywhere. It doesn't matter where you start. And I'm going to do my first one counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counter, clock, counter, clock, counter, clock. It doesn't matter how long the line is before you get to the next loop either, okay? If you wanted something like this and you want it really, really loose and open and hardly any quilting, I can't imagine why anybody would want hardly any quilting, but then there would just be a lot of space in between your loops, but they're still clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. Large, 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 smaller, smaller still, smaller, 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 all the way into pebbles. Okay? Cool? Lydia said cool. That's what I say when I watch her doing some fancy kitchen stuff and I don't understand. All right, so we could just leave it alone and just let it be that. But why? Let's add something to it, okay? So you could quite easily stitch this big on a big quilt that maybe perhaps didn't have as much piecing, right? Because the density of the quilting or the piecing has to be taken into consideration when you're considering the density of your quilting, right? Because you want to nail down all those seams. But we could do it loose like this. We can do it a little bit tighter, or we can go into pebbles, all right? So now let's add a heart, because a heart is a very familiar shape to everybody. And I want you to consider, and you should consider this with all things, and I know I'm jumping around, but everything keeps coming into my head. When you're stitching these shapes and these elements, you want them to be different sizes as well. We don't want every single loop on our quilt to be the same size. We don't want every heart, every leaf, every flower to all be cookie cuttered down. Let some be smaller, some be bigger. It actually helps you travel better because the design doesn't get stiff and rigid, and it adds more interest and it makes it flow better. Okay? So we'll start with the loops again, but we're going to pop some hearts in there. And we're probably going to decorate the hearts. Why not? Or embellish, I guess is a better word. So, loop, loop, loop. If I want to do a heart now, I'm going to come into here. I'll back myself up, put my heart in there, and carry on. The next heart, I want to make sure that the next heart's in a different direction. Okay? So I came around here and I thought, oh, maybe I'll just put one in there. All right? Oh, by the way, a heart becomes a leaf if you stick a vein in it. So if you want leaves, just put a vein in there, and then you've got a leafy quilt instead of a hearts quilt. Okay? Come back out and carry on. Back up, do my heart, carry on. So on and so forth. Everybody got that okay? Is everybody good in there? Do you have a question?
Yeah. Anne is asking, when you say nail down those seams, do you mean stitch in the ditch?
Oh, good question. Anne asked if when I said nail down those seams, do I mean stitch in the ditch? In this case, no, because we're doing edge to edge. All I mean is when you're doing an edge to edge design on a quilt and you're putting your 3 layers together, as much as we like the quilting to be pretty and nice to look at, it's actually serving a purpose, and it's keeping the 3 layers together so that the quilt stays together for many, many years. So if you have a quilt, say a postage stamp quilt, and it's all little 1 or 2 inch squares, and you do some huge open loop like I had up on the board before, that quilt's probably going to last twice in the dryer, the washer and the dryer, because it doesn't have enough quilting in it to keep all the seams secured over time. Does that make sense? So a quilt that's, say, a postage stamp that has all 1 or 2 inch squares in it needs something very dense so that it's hitting the seams, and it's going to help everything stay together over time being used, whether it's, on your bed, it's getting pulled, dragging a dog across the floor, you're making a fort out of it, it's going in the washer and the dryer. You need to have enough quilting in there for those seams to be nailed down, is basically what I mean, so that they'll survive. Okay. So now that we've got some hearts, we're going to add 2 things in there now. I hope nobody's bored. Is anybody bored? No? Do we still have everyone's attention?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome. Now we're going to add 2 things because I don't want to go too slow. We're going to add something inside the heart, and we're going to add a tendril. And you're going to get to see how quickly this really simple thing turns into a really, really cute design that you would love to just put on any little sweet quilt. Okay? Before we do that, I'm going to show you a tendril. All a tendril is a loop, comes out to a point, and you can either just come back on yourself like that, okay, or if you want it to look a little bit more like a ribbon, as you come out of your loop, you come up to here, you're going to do a little arc like that, and then you're going to follow that shape back. This is going to give you a ribbon, and that's going to just give you a tendril. You can mix and match them. You can just use one kind. You can use another kind. Okay? It's just a loop with an end. All right? This does not have to be backtracked perfectly. In fact, I think it looks a little bit better when it's not. Like, don't try to hit it all. Don't try to get everything back so it's all right on top of each other and backtracked to within an inch of its life. Let there be gaps. It makes it look more interesting. Okay? Did somebody have a question?
Yeah. When your Freemotion loops hearts, etc., and you come across a pucker, how do you fix it? That's from Brenda and Dawn.
Brenda and Dawn, hey guys, asked, when I'm doing a design and I come across a pucker, how do I fix it? Is the pucker in the piecing? Like, has the person, I know it wouldn't be you because I've seen your piecing, has the person sort of got something folded over? Is that what she means? Or is it the fabric is just too full? Because at that point, if it's fullness you're trying to work in, you're going to have one hand on the fabric and one hand on the machine. And you're just going to be kind of like moving your hands around to help kind of guide it in. Unless you need to steam it to shrink it. And I should show you that one day too. Okay, it's all right. Just we'll wait for Brenda to catch up, or for you guys to catch up, and then she can confirm what she's asking, because I'm not really sure. Okay, so this is what we're going to add. Okay, when it comes to the hearts, as you come in and do your heart, whatever heart it is you're doing, like I said earlier, if this has a vein in it, now it's a leaf, we could just simply come in with a little curl. We could come in with a curl, and I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but this is what happens with me. We could add a little pearl, which looks quite cute. You could just add a couple of curls inside it. Just let your imagination start to run away with you, okay? Doodle hearts in your sketchbooks. Just doodle a heart and then go inside it and just put something in it. And that will build your ideas in your head, okay? Gosh, it's hard to keep this simple for me. Too many ideas. All right.
Tracy?
Yes.
So Brenda and Dawn replied, in the piecing.
In the piecing. Okay, well, if you haven't noticed it and it's in a customer's quilt and you're already quilting, I mean, I don't really know what you would do. You could, if you're freehanding it, you could actually quilt. No, you couldn't even quilt around it and have them fix it afterwards, because then they're going to have to take it out and they're still going to have to stitch. I don't know, Brenda. I would be inclined to just keep quilting. Just keep quilting. Put a pin in it. Put a safety pin in it so that when the customer picks it up, you can show them where it is. Sort of leave the quilting dance around it a little bit so that maybe they can, if they want to, take that out and then sort of like flatten it out and maybe, what's that stitch? The stitch where you can't see it. Shoot. Not a whip stitch, but like a ladder stitch. Something like a ladder stitch so that they can fix it if they want. To be honest, if they didn't see it when they pieced it, they're probably not overly worried about it. So, okay. We are going to do some loops. I'm going to add a heart. I'm going to stop. I'm going to put my heart in. And I'm going to put a little curl. And then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put a little heart in this way. Put a little curl. And I'm going to add a little tendril to it. So when I come out, I'm just going to loop out and back. Then I carry on my way. Remembering that I'm still, see how I've started to go in a straight line? Not good. We don't want to start traveling like this because then it's just going to look like a garland of hearts. So we've got to kind of go back on ourselves there. Up, curl, maybe add a little tendril up here again, and then I can maybe come this way a little bit. Now, if this is the corner of my quilt, say I started there. Now, I'm getting myself into a corner, right? That happens when you're freehand quilting, whether it's edge to edge or you're working a filler design or something and you get stuck, or you've painted yourself into or stitched yourself into a corner. Well, on the outside of the quilt, of course, there's no issue because you're just going to go out to the edge of the fabric and just stitch down and come back into the quilt wherever you want to, right? So I'll allow this to get up into the corner. Maybe put a little heart here, right? I can't draw worth beans on this thing either, by the way. Then I would maybe sneak down here. Why not? Stick a little tendril right in there. This would actually be, if that was the edge of the quilt, I would have started on the edge, right? Then I can sneak down here. There's absolutely no reason why I can't come down the outside of the quilt. And carry on this way. And work my way around. So if you don't start meandering pretty quickly, it starts to look like a line, right? My hearts are different sizes. I've got small ones, as hideous as they are. I have small ones and big ones. They're all going in different directions. And the loops are traveling. There's different spaces, it's different amounts of space between each loop. All to keep the design sort of looking not cookie cuttered. All right. Let's add some little flowers. Okay? Flowers and hearts and tendrils and loops look so cute together. Just throw a flower in. If you get really comfortable with the loops and the hearts things, just pop a little flower in every now and then. Or the opposite, make it mostly flowers with some hearts, or split it up. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to get yourself into a pattern. So you don't need 2 hearts and a flower, 2 hearts and a flower, 2 hearts, a tendril, a flower, do you know what I mean? You don't need to get into patterns. What'll happen is the more you do it, and it's all about the doodling, everybody, by the way, you are going to learn just as much and get just as good by drawing in a sketchbook as you would standing at the machine. If you can doodle the designs, I guarantee you when you get to the machine, you're going to be able to do it and do it better when you're quilting, whether you're on a stand-up long arm or whether you're on a sit-down. If you've given yourself the muscle memory to make those shapes, they will translate to the machine. I promise you. Okay? So the flowers we're going to pop in here are very, very simple. They're basically just these little guys. We're just going to do some long, like this. Okay? We can have 3, we can have 5. Try and make it an odd number. It looks better. Rather than having a flower with 4 petals or 6 petals, it'll look better if you have 3 or 5. Don't overthink it, but just try to think in odd numbers. Okay? We're not going to put centers in them today. Next week we'll actually do some bigger flowers that have a center and that have different shaped petals. We'll add to that, but tonight we're just going to do some simple little daisies. Okay? How are we with questions? Does anybody have any?
Dina has like a comment, but it's not really a question.
Okay.
She said she makes her hearts from the bottom of the heart. Try to make from the top, but not very pretty. So I guess she means like it ends at the bottom.
Yeah, so Dina commented that she makes her hearts from the bottom. instead of the top. So what I'm assuming you mean, Dina, is that you're coming in, and I don't even know if I can do it, to be honest. So you're coming in and you're doing this, probably. If that's working for you and you like them, then keep doing that way. I don't think that way. For me, I like to do them this way because I actually stop and I change direction, right? When I come in and it's an actual, that's going to be a heart because I stop and then I come back on myself to make the heart. If you've always done them that way, it's going to be a hard habit to break. But if you like the way they look, then don't change it. Okay, let's add some flowers. We're going to do the same loop thing. We're going to do some loops. Then when I decide I want a flower, I'm going to stop, much like the heart. I stop and then I come back on myself. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to carry on, I think. Yeah. Stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really want to echo it. So we're just going to carry on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These can be fat little flowers, or they can be long, skinny, like daisies or whatever. Not every petal has to be exactly the same. Let them be organic, okay? We're not computers. So I don't care if all my little petals are exactly the same. If you watch all those Freemotion videos that I have on my YouTube channel and you actually look at the designs, some of my leaves look like they're stepped on. Some of my flowers look like they're, they got crushed in the car on the way home or whatever. But it doesn't matter because when you're finished, you're looking at the whole thing. You're not looking at every single little individual petal or every single little leaf or every single little loop. Some loops may not be as pretty as others. Some may be a little more elongated. Some may be a little rounder. Heaven forbid you should go clockwise once or twice. Oh no. Don't take it out. Just leave it. I promise you, when you have the whole thing done, it's going to look adorable, and you're going to have to look for those things that when you first stitched it and you saw and thought, oh, should I take that out? Because I used to take it all out. Just keep going. I promise you, it's all going to look good, okay? If I can give you any advice, it's to cut yourself some slack and appreciate what you're doing, all right? We always pick everything apart. If I had a nickel for every time somebody showed me a quilt that they did, and the very first thing out of their mouth was, yeah, but I cut this corner off, or this point's missing on this triangle, or oh my gosh, I mixed the colors up here. Stop! Be nice to yourselves, okay? All right, sorry, diatribe over, or rant, whatever. I don't even know what diatribe means. Never mind. All right. Flower, 1, 2, 3. Maybe that one just is going to be a little flower. Maybe that little flower, because he's only got 3 petals, will have a little tendril hanging off it. And we carry on. Maybe we want a little heart in there, added in with the flowers. I promise the handouts you're going to get are going to be much neater. Flower, tendril, flower, petal. There. So that's starting to look a lot different than this. right? It gets a little more interesting every time you add something and add something. But we're still traveling in that meandering fashion. We're just adding little elements here and there. And you're going to build your skills.
Sorry.
That's okay. Lydia's watching TV, apparently. Here we go. Oh my goodness. I just have to not think about earlier. All right. Okay. Is everybody good with the concept? If you could give some feedback to Lydia or Jessie so that I know what everybody's thinking out there. That would be great. Next week we're going to work on different flowers with different shaped petals with more stuff in them, and we're going to add some curls and some different kinds of tendrils, okay? Something a little bit like that. The designs are going to get a little bit bigger, a little less simplistic, and we'll just play with some different shapes, okay? Meander loops and flowers. If you're going to play on your machines this week, doodle, doodle, doodle in your sketchbooks and keep your sketchbooks. This is why I ask you to have them. And when I teach free motion quilting in the shop, hopefully that becomes a thing again. If we can get rid of the pandemic long enough, then we can go back to teaching in the shop. I want you to have a sketchbook. Doesn't have to be a good one or an expensive one. It can be from anywhere, but it's just plain blank paper, no lines, and keep it. Drawing on a whiteboard is all well and good. The problem with you doing it at home on a whiteboard is just like what I'm doing, I'm rubbing it out, which is fine because I'm just teaching people something. But when you're working in a sketchbook, especially if you're new, the most wonderful thing about a sketchbook is you can look back next week, next month, a year from now, and you will see the transition from where you started to where you are at that point. And honestly, it's amazing. You'll see how quickly you get better and how quickly your imagination and your creativity start to grow. The more you do this, the more ideas you will get and the more things you'll add and the more complicated, they're not complicated, but the more complicated your designs will look. All right? So while this is a good idea for teaching, for demonstrating purposes, I really do want you to draw in a sketchbook and keep the sketchbook. Maybe get yourself a little one as well that you can, for the ladies, you can throw them in your purse. For the guys, just toss them in the car somewhere. And if you're sitting somewhere waiting, grab your sketchbook and just doodle. Just doodle. And all kinds of ideas will start to come to you, I promise. All right. Anything?
Tamara's asking about continuous spiral and swirls and how to make them look even-ish.
Tamara is asking about continuous spirals and swirls. So going in and coming out, I'm assuming, is to and how to make them look even. Well, that just kind of is going to come with practice. All a spiral is a curl that didn't stop going, right? So to come into a curl and come out, and we'll be doing these, we will be doing these in the next couple weeks. To come into a curl and come out, we're only coming in a little bit. A spiral, you're just going to continue to go in, and your lines are going to be a little bit closer together, but you have to leave yourself space to get back out, right? So if I come in, I go in, but in your head, you have to be sort of thinking about how much you have to leave space so that when you come out, it's going to get, there's going to be twice as much thread there, right? I apologize. I know what's going on in here. I'm just trying to get it to come out of my mouth, and they're not connecting for whatever reason. So I get in there, and then I'm just going to work my way back out. That's not totally even. It's okay. It's all right. It's also really hard to draw standing up. I would be more concerned that your spirals are all different sizes. So just go in, leave yourself enough space to come out. And depending on how dense you want them is how close together. So if I want something that's really dense, I'm going to have to take a long time to get in there so that when I come out, it's going to be twice as dense as when I went in, right? I can't control it. It's too high. I mean, I could say you could use your foot as a guide, but let's be honest, when you're driving your machine, unless you're going around applique or just doing like a little echo, it's hard to watch the outside edge of your foot when you're going in a spiral. It's just not. You just kind of have to go by feel. We'll just rub that one out. It looks like I've been drinking. Wish I haven't.
Question from Dora's Trestle.
Hi, Doris.
Can you demonstrate going from side to side? What I'm seeing is maybe one section at a time.
Doris asked if I can say it again.
Demonstrate going from side to side. What I'm seeing is maybe one section at a time.
Doris asked me to go from side to side because she's seeing what she's seeing as one section. I'm just stopping because it gets boring, right? And if the quilt was, I would just continue doing the whole thing until I got to the other side of the quilt. Oh, I think it moved. So if this was the quilt, and I started in this side, say this is my quiltable space. I don't know, here. Okay, that's my quiltable space. I probably should have put it a little lower so that I can actually reach it. But if I started here somewhere, and I traveled in here, I could sneak up here. I might put a little loop there just because it fills in the space, and then I would just travel across the top, and then I would come back in. Now remember when I talked about leaving space in here for the next row, right? So I'm going to travel back out, but I'm going to leave that area there. Obviously I have to fill in the top here because that's the top edge of the quilt. So that will be straight. but you just want to meander around. Like that. Little ones, big ones. Okay. Oh, that's hideous. You understand the concept. Don't judge me on my flower, on my hearts. So if we look at what I just did, there's the bottom. It goes up into here. So my next quiltable space that is here, when I do this row, like I said, I'm going to start on this side now and go back this way. It gives me somewhere to pop the design up and in. Like that. So on and so forth. And then I would leave, I wouldn't come back to here. I'd just keep kind of going there, and then I'd end up with, this is kind of flat here, but I would end up with sort of a hill here. And it would fill it all in. And then when those purple lines are gone, you wouldn't be able to tell on the quilt. You won't be able to tell which row was which. They'll just all kind of blend together. Okay, does that make better sense? Maybe I should be drawing down here where I can actually reach. It would be better. Any other questions?
No, Laura says she understands now. So.
Oh, good. Awesome. Maybe not on my quilt, just in case it makes a mess. There we go. Okay. So turning a meander into loops, clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. It doesn't matter how much space is between your loops. The closer they are together, the more dense the design is going to be. When you're comfortable traveling willy-nilly, doing the loops and making sure that you're going in opposite directions for each one. The reason we do that, by the way, the clockwise, counterclockwise, because it travels. If I did them all clockwise or all counterclockwise, this is what happens. Okay? If I'm doing them counterclockwise and I'm doing them all counterclockwise, it's going to be the same thing. It doesn't really matter where I go. We don't get that meandering. So you have to flip which way they're going to help you travel. So when you're comfortable with that, add another shape that you're comfortable with already. Hearts. If you're comfortable with those little tendrils, throw the little tendrils in. Try some little flowers. Just keep things simple. For those of you who are brand new, keep it simple and just work on getting comfortable with one element at a time. And then when you feel comfortable with that, throw something else in. If it's a heart, put a little tendril or a little curl or a vein or something in the heart and then jump out and continue on. Don't try to add everything all at once because it'll get overwhelming and then you'll think, well, I just can't do it, which is not true. You just need to baby step your way into more and more elements. And then the more comfortable you get, the more ideas you'll get, the more willing you'll be to try new things and get more complicated. And nothing's complicated. It's all baby stepped on top of each other. All right? We'll give you the foundation, and then you can build your skills slowly or quickly, depending on you. And sky's the limit, honestly. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Okay, are we good?
We're good.
No questions?
I think you've answered them all.
Awesome. That means either everybody totally understood it or everybody's just fallen asleep.
No, you have a lot of that very nice comments.
We won't know till later. Okay, everybody. It's 5 after. So I'm going to go. And you draw. During the week, if anybody has any questions, just post them in the comments below this video. I will leave it up. If you're new to the channel and you haven't watched some of the Freemotion quilting videos that I have on there, I did 100 designs in 100 days. I started that in 2015, and I did it 4 times. So there's 400 Freemotion designs. Originally, the idea was to keep them very simple. Didn't happen, but if you watch some of those videos, for those of you who haven't seen them, and you watch, doesn't matter what design I'm stitching, except for the grid designs, of course, everything goes all over the place. Start to go this way, then I'm back over here, then I'm over there, and I'm either just dancing along or I'm echoing. We're going to do echoing next week, because echoing is another way to travel. We didn't need to echo with any of this because these little designs are just super simple, and we don't need to echo anywhere to travel with those, but we're going to add echoing next week. All right? Good. Thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you had fun, and I hope you learned something new. Are you clicking at me? No. Okay. All right. Good. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Thanks for coming again, and I will see you next Monday. Bye, guys.